Here we are, another Friday morning live, March 6th, 2026. Another beautiful overcast day as we're moving into the springtime. Beautiful time of year for regrowth. Everything comes alive. We see all the plants sprouting, just beautiful time of year. But we have a dark cloud over our heads from what's going on around the world, and we need to keep praying that humanity will go towards peace, balance, and correct conduct. Like it's you know these sick satanic pedophile war pigs need to be stopped. And it's up to humanity to make the change, because if we continue to allow this, this is what we're going to get around the world. The stuff that is going on is absolutely insane. They're going into Ecuador. They're going into Nigeria. They're going out. They're taking over the whole world. It's very sad times, but as individuals, there's the only thing we can really do is go within, pray, and continue to send plaf to all those in dire needs, and especially to the evil ones. Um, you know, it's sad. It breaks my heart watching this stuff. We're all going to suffer as a whole, especially if they decide to go nuclear. We know what that's going to do. Everybody will pay around the world. So let's, continue sending plaf every day, 432 a.m. and or p.m. Close your eyes, 9 seconds, and make it happen. That's all we can say. But in this realm, in the MFS realm, we're focusing on prayer and fasting as a lifestyle. This is what we do. We've been at this for over 11 years now. My goodness, time goes by. It seems like I started yesterday, but I don't know about you guys, but weeks seem like days now. It's like already another week's gone by, and months gone by, and it's like it seems like winter just started, and now we're into spring. It's just unreal how fast time is moving. And anybody into scriptures talks about time speeding up and so on and so forth. So we know that we are in interesting times. And oh boy, I wish we can change things like that. It's just I thought we were done with war. I thought humanity was done with war. But what is to be is to be. I guess there's lessons to learn for all of us, and we will make the best of it. So let's always focus on sending plaf. But I just posted a photograph of supposedly, it might probably AI, but everything these days, can't trust anything anymore. It's probably 90+% AI generated. Even before this AI started, it was already there on a small degree. Google has been using AI for many years, but now it's gone full out. But anyway, the photo shows the muscle structure of a human body without massage and one with massage, and you could see the night and day difference. What does massage do? You're moving around obstructions, right? Things are blocked. We're obstructed. So if you can get energy moving, you can get lymph moving, blood moving is continuously moving. You can have obstructions loosened up, and the body can move them out a little easier. But it always goes back to the complete lifestyle. If we're continuously obstructing ourselves, we know where we're going to end up. We can see the evidence, you know, all around the world. Look at how many different cultures there are, all the different diets, and so on and so forth. And you know, you can look at the places where they live the longest. They have the most simple diets. You know, um, revolving around what's growing in their area. That's, you know, if you look at the blue zones, they eat locally pretty much exclusively, and you know what they grow and so on and so forth. And they're not big eaters. They uh, they don't overeat, right? So the food makes a big difference. You know, what we're consuming each day is going to affect us. And if you don't believe it, you know, eat margarine and see what happens. Eat margarine exclusively for a few months and see if you survive. You know, it's one molecule away from plastic. You know, when they brought that stuff out, you know, what year was that? It was in the 70s maybe, or maybe earlier, maybe in the 60s. When they brought that stuff out, and all the other chemical laden foods we seen the diseases, the man-made diseases skyrocketing, and health of, you know, people has gone way down. But you go to those places where they don't have this stuff still today, you know, these blue zones that live simply. Some of them are being corrupted, but they uh, they didn't go on the same lines, right? Their health is still very good in those places. Like the Okinawan, the newer generations are not eating like their parents and grandparents and great grandparents. They're changing from what I've been reading into. So their future is not going to be, I believe, like their parents, great grandparents, and great grandparents, because they've changed their ways. They've taken on more of a Western type of lifestyle diet. You know, the Okinawans ate very simply. I think sweet potatoes was one of their staples, and you know, seaweeds and some fish and so on and so forth. Very simple lifestyle. If you look at the Japanese original cuisine, um, you know, it's things are changing everywhere. Um, you look at Sardinia, the blue zone in the mountains there. They're the only place that have equal centurions, male and female. Everywhere else, the females live longer. So that's the only place. They're sheep herders in the mountains. They're tending their sheep, and if you, I've watched many videos, and these people over 100 years old, they're reading with no glasses. Their minds are sharp. You know, they're in better shape than people in Western society here in their 50s and 60s. So if people don't believe that diet and lifestyle makes a difference, then you've been sold. You know, we've been sold so many different things over the years, and in the last few years since lockdown, we've been sold a lot of caca, you know, if you know what I'm talking about. Um, so many people have been duped into doing things that they normally probably wouldn't do because they've been forced to do things with fear of losing their work or whatever. So yeah, we've watched many people pass on because of it, and many more in horrific health state. Their health is many problems. It's still happening now. People dropping dead from that crap. Um, like the funeral homes before lockdown were, I can't remember the exact numbers. they were doing like a funeral a week or something, and it went up to like 10 to 20 funerals a week after lockdowns. And it wasn't because of what they told us. It was after people lined up for the thing in their arm. So you can put two and two together with whatever. Most people I've talked to, they're in denial. You know, family and friends who've taken it, they don't want to hear how to clean it out. Not interested. They're just going day by day and hoping that they're going to survive, even though we see what's happening around us. And there's, if anybody had any um, interest in their health, they would at least listen and try and make some changes. But I guess most people just want to be in denial. I guess I don't know. It's crazy, like the stuff we've seen, and families breaking up. Oh, they're not protected. You can't come to my house and see my children and stuff. I've all kinds of stories like that. Very, very sad what we've all been through. And I'm sure many of you have experienced these things. Uh, uh, I'm sure many of you have experienced these things. So yeah. Um, anyway, here we are. If you got any questions, see Mona and Lux share on joining us. Um, hopefully you're doing great. But let's see here. It's not easy to know what's real. Right? Yeah, it's not anymore. This is why we have to go back into the simplicity of what we see in nature, if and base our what we're listening to. Does it have any relevance with what's happening in nature? If it doesn't, it's most likely bullcrap. When you start seeing all these claims about they found this drug to heal your bones faster and this and that, to me it's all bullcrap. We've heard this for decades and decades about all these breakthroughs, and they've never come through. So I would not listen to any of that stuff. Keep things simple. What we do in the MFS realm is very basic, very simple: prayer, fasting, herbs, and that we use to support. Do we start dry fast with tea and herbs and then bubbly? I know we end bubbly. Yeah, it's in the protocol. I'm on start. That's what we the bubbly is. We designed it basically for the dry fast before and after. That's what the bubbly's for. Um, the tea and herbs, we're doing those on the wet days. Um, you know, as we suggest for dry fast, it's always wisest to start your dry fast in the morning. So then when you break in the morning, and then you have time to break it properly with the liquids and washing and enemas and so on and so forth. So we want to keep things very basic and simple. Tinctures and tea we're doing on our wet days, every wet day. The dry days, unless some people are having challenges and so on and so forth, we have the different stages of the dries. If you look at the protocol, we have the dry, wet, and so on and so forth. Dry, wet, you can do half dose of the tinctures, just small amounts, it gives you kind of a boost of energy, gets energy flowing, because when we're squeezing, remember, we're obstructed. When we're squeezing, because we're obstructed, it's more difficult for things to flow. That's why we say you need to move. No matter how horrible you feel when you're dry fasting, we need movement to get energy flowing. I remember waking up some days, I thought I couldn't get out of bed, and then started moving, just forced myself a little, started moving, and then I'm riding my bike and doing miles on the bike. So You need to move. We've from day one, we started sharing Master Fast. We started giving information completely opposite of what's out there about fasting and so on and so forth. And there's reasons for it. We're not just pulling things out of a hat. Dry fasting is the most intense, most powerful way towards healing. Master fast system is the glorified dry fast. Everything is for the dry fast. Everything happens in the dry fast. Even though we don't see it happen in the dry fast, that's where it all happens. What we're doing before, we're washing to prepare for the dry fast, squeeze, and then we have to wash what the dry fast did out after the dry fast. So we're just cycling that over and over and over. It's so simple. There's nothing complicated about what we do. We just put it in a systematic, simple way that we can all follow it very easily and very powerfully. You know, master fasting is. I haven't seen anything that comes close to uh, the power of level of detoxification, true detoxification. People talk about detoxification online like it's like walking in the park. You're eating this and you're detoxing. You're eating that, you're detoxing something. It's all about addition. It's all about eating, and they're putting eating and detoxification in the same category. And we don't do that. If you've been on this group for any time, eating and healing do not belong in the same sentence. We say that for a reason, because they don't. You know, if you want to heal, it's prayer and fasting. All the scriptures, look at all the scriptures, all the different religions, they all have prayer and fasting, all of them. And there's a reason for it. Because that's inherently built in our design of our physicality to heal when we are in an imbalanced state. No matter what has caused their imbalanced state, prayer and fasting is the answer. Unless we're in some kind of car accident, we need severe emergency care. That's a different story, and we have no choice but to go to ERs, in that system, because there is no other system to support severe accidents and stuff like that, because they've taken it all away. It was been all suppressed for over 100 years now, since mainstream medical mafia took over. There's nothing supporting natural ways to deal with that. And I'm sure they had ways, because if you look at the ancient Egyptian times, and I think even in the ancient Greece, they were doing operations on people, it's brain surgeries and so on and so forth. They found the evidence in the skeletons and so on and so forth. So how did they do that in those times when there was no modern drugs? Because they used certain natural ways that you can do it. Like there's techniques with acupuncture that I've read about, that they can do operations without any anesthesia, just using acupuncture. And so I'm just giving you one example, but I'm sure there's plants and so on and so forth. There's many ways that we've mostly lost. There may be some older folks who have some of the knowledge that they carried through, but very hard to find these days. But how wonderful would it be if all the natural way would be opened up to the true science, real science, instead of funded by big pharma, right? What a world it would be. That's what I would like to see. And the whole health system should not be based on the dollar. That right there is already a big mistake. That's my opinion. Once you put a dollar sign into it, it's corruption, and there should be no money involved in that. We can be creative and find ways to support that system without dollars. I'm pretty sure. I think in the U.S. before 1960 or 70, you weren't allowed to make a profit in in the medical field, if I'm not mistaken. I remember reading something. You can look that up. But then as soon as that changed, prices skyrocketed and everything changed. So now we're dealing with all kinds of things. You know, the simple thing of using actual linen sheets in hospitals, that used to be a thing. They removed even that. We know that linen has the highest field strength energy of all other materials. Just wearing linen, sleeping on linen, is is uh, is going to be a gazillion times better than using polyester, synthetics or anything like that. Even cotton is nowhere near close. And maybe if you get, I think organic cotton, it's nowhere near close linen. I think wool is wool only if the animal was treated properly, like taken care of humanely and everything. And the it's at the same level as linen, and everything else is way below, way, way, way below. If you can look that up, I've shared those numbers before on the in the Facebook group. But what are we doing here? We keep things simple. What? Why do we want to complicate things? Um, we know what works. And uh, what I find is most people are looking to add something. They're thinking that something is missing. I haven't seen anything like that in 36 plus years of fasting. Fasting is always a solution. All people that had deficiencies and fasted, they solved their deficiency problems. They didn't solve it with addition, they solved it through subtraction. And this is what we focus on, subtraction. The herbs that we're using we're not using them in the mindset of we're missing something and we need the herbs. No, we're using the herbs to assist us in subtracting the things that the body's having challenges removing. That's why we use herbs. That's the reason we use herbs in Master Fast System. Everybody can believe whatever they choose to believe, and that's okay, but that's what I believe 100% is what the herbs are there for. To help us remove obstructions. That simple. So yeah, that no other reason to add anything in the Master Fast System. Um, it's tried and true and tested over and over and over again by many of us. Um, we suggest people always choose one of the levels as a lifestyle. Choose one of the levels. Some people don't like a weekly fast lifestyle. Some people maybe want to do it every 2 weeks or every once a month. 9 days a month, something like that. But we need regularly to keep up some purging in our lifestyle. If we're always obstructing, always eating 7 days a week, we're not going to be doing well. We need to be able to purge all the obstructions that we're collecting continuously 24/7, because we're collecting them not only in the physical eating, we're collecting them emotionally and through the air and our environments and so on and so forth. So we need a purging system continuously, and this is why we have the levels, so people can make it work for themselves in whatever way suits them. Everybody's going to be different, I I'm a big fan of the long fast, but you really have to be emotionally prepared and set and understand um, fully how to break a fast properly and stick to that regime, because breaking the fast after doing long extended level 7s, you're going to be getting yourself in trouble. And that's why we stopped supporting level 7 for 108 days for people. because one too many people decided they knew better, and they didn't fare very well. If you know what I mean, they had severe challenges. So we don't need to see that. You need to be emotionally very well versed in fasting, but breaking your fast over and over and over again, so you know how you're going to react emotionally when you break your first, your long fast. You need to be ready. You need to be emotionally ready, because it literally sends some of us into complete uncontrollable states. Like, I mean, eating continuously and not able to stop. I've had somebody, call me on that. So you need to be emotionally ready. That's why when you're doing it over and over and over, fasting, breaking your fast over and over and over again, you learn to uh, appreciate um, how your emotions react, and you learn to deal with that, because there's better ways to what we call cheat than, instead of go out and get yourself a whole pizza, or go to a hamburger stand or something. You know what I mean? That's, putting yourself in extreme danger after a long fast. So choose one of the levels. That's what we say. Choose one of the levels over and over and over again. Start on level 2, 3, move up to 4, 5. Even staying on level 5, 6, it's very powerful. If you're only eating 1 or 2 days a week, you won't be able to eat much. You will not be able to eat much. If you do, you're going to be paying heavily for that, because stomach is only that big. That's all it is. How much food can you put in there? Yeah, we can stretch it, and you can see we can stretch it pretty big. But do we want to stretch it? That's the question. Do we need to stretch it? I say no, we don't need to stretch it. If we choose eating as a lifestyle, like I was talking earlier, the blue zones, they don't overeat. Japanese in general, they only eat to 80% full. All the Japanese culture, that's the way they are. They don't eat large amounts. Me coming from Italian background, we eat. And we overeat extensively. Everything's about food, food, and more food. And there's many cultures like that. If you go to Italian wedding, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's absolutely insanity. You're eating for hours, literally. You know, one course after another course after another course. We don't eat like that every day, but actually there are some families who do eat like that every day. They have many courses of food every single day. Um, you know, in the way I grew up with my parents, we ate very well, but we didn't overdo it. Only on occasions where we had guests and so on and so forth, and on holidays for sure there was many hours of eating, and of weddings of course. But yeah, so we got to be careful. It's we all love eating, but I love fasting way more. So I love eating, but I don't love what the feeling of how the food reacts in the body after, depending on what foods, of course. Fruit is the easiest for me on my body. Anything outside of fruit, I feel it massively. We become much more sensitive, and that's what we want. Some people don't agree with me, but our senses are there for a reason. They're to warn us, and if they're not working, that means we've numbed them out. We're fully obstructed, and we don't feel anything. So that's why you don't feel anything, because you're numbed out. You're in that numbed state. And because people have lived like that most of their whole lives, they believe that's the way it should be. That's not the way it is. Um, if any mothers out there who've grown children up, from babies, and from breastfeeding and then start feeding them, um, they will tell you, and you can, if you've witnessed it as a father, you know, when you start feeding the child, depending what you're feeding it, you're going to have to be kind of force feeding it because it's spitting it out. Some foods it doesn't want it, but we're feeding it because we believe that we need to feed the child that food, and then eventually the child gets addicted to it, and then it's okay, and then they'll eat anything. That's how it works, right? You in nature, in the wild, we see a little bit of that, meaning that animals that have access to cities, cities' food, cooked foods, you know, in the garbage dumps and so on and so forth. Um, the smell, the addiction of the cooked food, they get trapped into that as well, and they'll be back for more. And that's what negatively affects the wild animals, mankind. It's always mankind that affects everything negatively. Everything man touches, they destroy. If you leave nature alone, like we have a beautiful example. If you remember lockdowns, what happened? If anybody did a little bit of research, there was rivers and streams, and everything was cleaning itself out in nature automatically because man stopped destroying things. Everything was shut down. There was dolphins swimming in Venice and so on. So everything was going back to. We had much more birds and things coming around. It was a beautiful, peaceful time. It was a nice time when the lockdowns happened. Everything was quiet, and the earth was nature was starting to restore itself. Because if you leave it alone, it's got that built in to reset, right? Fast. It's in a fasting state. Leave it alone, and it will reset. It's the only thing it knows how to do is bring itself back to balance. There's no other thing that it can do. It's built into the design to go back to balance. Um, what we got here? I couldn't find vino cotto di uva. Do you have a link? Vino cotta. I don't have a link. I haven't looked for it online because there's over here we have stores that carry it. I haven't looked for it online. I'll have a look when I get a chance, see if I can find it in the USA. Okay, I'll see if there's anything online. Uh, it's basically grape juice syrup. Maybe you can search that. I'll have a look if I can find it. Because over here we have a lot of a lot of Italians in this area, and you can find pretty much anything from Italy in this area. they, we got everything. Like the Greater Toronto area in general, you can find not only from Italy, you can find probably any cultured food from around the world in Toronto area, like Indian, Thai, Japanese, Chinese, you know, Peruvian, whatever. You can find it in Toronto. We got all those different cultures. It's a many multicultural city, Toronto is. And so we can find anything. So people that come here in those cultures, they're importing that stuff for those people. And it's been like that since ever since I've been here, since growing up, right? I was born here. So we have access to everything, which is one nice thing. You know, we have all the different fruits from all over the different world. Like I have durian, literally a 5 minute walk from here. I can get durian, fresh durian, frozen durian, and then that's another fruit that we have to be careful because of the high fat content. I enjoy it occasionally. I can't overdo it with durian. It's you know it's about 30% fat. And you know, as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of fat, but durian is one thing that I will continue to indulge myself occasionally. You know, olives, I love olives. You know, they're about 20% fat, a little bit lower. So yeah, we don't want to be involved in the oils, that's for sure. But eating the fruit, olives are fruit, durian is fruit. We can enjoy those. Avocado is one thing that I pretty much stay away from these days. Um, I don't want to do. But I'll have a look for that Vino Goto, see if I can find something, and that's it. If you have any other questions, otherwise we'll call it a day. Thanks for joining. Live it, love it, stay focused. Let's keep praying for all the poor souls out there that are in horrific state right now. I don't know what to do anymore. It's very sad. Bye, Mona. See you guys. Ciao for now. Let's send Plaf to all those in dire needs out there.